welcome everyone to the Sci Fi Society Podcast, Volume 12. And joining me, as always, part of the Sci Fi Society, we got Gojira851, Matt Jacobson, we got Anthony Jordan from Anthony Jordan Movies and More. And we got my brother, my road dog, Jedi Granville, Walter Ross. And we do have a special guest.
Two, thank you very much.
Yep. Two special guests on this special podcast. And we'd like to welcome the Omni Viewer.
No, it's this. There you go. That's
right. Yes, and yep, we have to have some kind of YouTube star on this actual podcast, man. So,
and that's why I'm here, of course.
Well, I'm really glad you guys decided to join me. And this movie, as you guys know, that it holds a very special place in my heart. It was the very first Godzilla film I had ever seen, and when we did Anubis's birthday bash, Godzilla birthday bash, of course you guys know that this was my number one film for Godzilla of all time. So we are going to break down in this volume of the Sci-Fi Society Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. And all of us really enjoy this movie, of course. Especially it's the first time we do a Showa era Godzilla film that we're going to be covering on this podcast and for my channel. So, any of you guys, honestly, first before we start, I want to get each and one of you guys take real quick synopsis on what the movie meant to you when you guys first saw it, and then from there we'll start to just break it down straight from the beginning. So I'll start with the special guest, Omni Viewer.
Oh, thank you. Truth be told, I actually saw Godzilla vs. Monster Zero like a dozen times before I ever saw this one. So I watched them way out of order. When I finally did get to see it, I thought like, oh, cool. So this is how it all started. This was the actual turning point for Godzilla. And yeah, I think it really holds up. It's got a few weird things in it, but I mean, I did a one monstrous moment on the conversation between Mothra, Godzilla, and Rodan. So
yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it's okay.
Cool. No, yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I remember when you did have the one monstrous moment, and that was the first time that I did join you on that project that you did, and I actually did the same concept, and I did the same scene when it came to Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra when they had the little bickering between, we need to save the world from Ghidorah and everything. And I remember that was the first time I actually did an interaction with you as far as your channel is concerned. And yeah, I do remember that. That was cool, man. That one actually kind of shot me up a little bit as far as views, because I never thought anybody was gonna watch it, but or anybody was gonna take any interest in that video that I did. But yeah, it shot me. It's got a good sizable amount of views. But we're moving on. So let's go with Jedi Granville.
Well, when I originally watched this film back in '87, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I've heard about it so many times, but when I finally watched it, I was kind of like, wow, this didn't take the turn that I thought it was going to take. I mean, I'm expecting the kaijus and everything, but the human action, as far as Princess Sound Notes, where her journey goes, it's like her being taken over by an alien essence, and just going from there. It's like, you wouldn't think that would come into play in a kaiju film, but it's a tokusatsu film. So basically you're going to see some, as Omni mentioned, some weird things, and it does do some weird things in here, and I'm just like, but after watching it and, seeing it, like I say, I'm a young person seeing it, it was very satisfying. And knowing that after I watched, it's like, okay, this is what kaiju films are supposed to be like, and I'm just like having a ball with it, you know. And like I say, hey, I mean, when you do weird things, and I'm always weird anyway, you appreciate it a little bit more. So thankfully, it was that. It didn't disappoint.
Yeah. Oh no, great man, great. Thank you for that. Thank you for adding to that. And yeah, what's up, Brian Sanchez? Welcome to the live stream, man. Glad to have you. And okay, now Anthony.
Well, this one's just a very fond. It's got a lot of fond memories. It's one of the first movies I remember seeing. Like I said, I was a little kid scared of the barber. My mom told me about this movie and said, if you can make it through the getting your hair cut without crying, I'll get this movie, which I met the challenge, and I fell in love with it. And like, just the fun stuff you pick up when you're a kid, and then when you're an adult and you can see some of the more nuanced stuff, and even little things like how Honda's kind of showing with Mothra, Godzilla, and Rodan, like, this is what we can accomplish if we put our differences to the side and stop fighting each other, which is a very common theme throughout his films, and one of the things I appreciate most about him as a filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I know, absolutely, man. I mean, do we ever learn though? No.
Yeah, like Seventh Samurai had kind of the same message. And Kurosawa, which was a more pessimistic take on it, was this is what can happen if we do away with class differences. But he's also like, they're always going to be here anyway.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, man. Thank you for that, man. And okay, so Matt, go Jerry 51.
Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. I really was out of order with these films. My first film was Godzilla 1985, then Son of Godzilla, then Gigan, then Mechagodzilla. Then I remember seeing Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. I remember watching this as a kid and just being blown away with it, because I remember seeing the Space Invaders, with Mechagodzilla and Gigan, and thinking they were cool. But when I saw what Ghidorah did, it just blew my mind. This three-headed dragon, this alien invader just kicking the crap out of everybody and forcing all the monsters who were fighting each other 10 minutes earlier, forcing them to come together, put aside their differences, to battle this bigger threat, and still was barely able to beat him. They had to use some trickery and use the high ground to beat him. But yeah, it was completely awesome. I saw that. I was a little kid when I watched that as well. I can't remember the year I watched it, but I remember the old VHS box that my brothers used to have. My parents brought them all the Godzilla films, before at the time, and it was this really cool artwork on it as well, and just awesome stuff. Loved it. Still love it to this day.
All right, exactly, man. That's exactly how you explain it, man. It's you pretty much just hit it right there, bro. Right, you hit the bullseye with that, because that's how I see it. Because it was just it's like the first time, before there was the MCU, when they did certain promotional, or when they made the characters and they started bringing them all, and actually adding and bringing their universes together. This was actually one of the first times that it actually happened, where they brought in Mothra from Toho, Godzilla, Rodan, and then they made King Ghidorah the big bad, the main antagonist. So that's the first time they actually bring them into a actual cross universe and brought them together. And that's what really got me, like, when I first saw it, because I saw it when I was so young. I was 4 years old, man, and I fell in love with it. That's when I saw Godzilla for the first time, and that's when I just had this fascination with Godzilla and with this movie altogether. So that's why it was crazy, man, when when I just decided to watch it and just do it and just loved it, man. Oh, where did Walter go? Oh,
Yeah,
barely,
YouTube
barely.
stole
Yeah,
Walt from us.
huh?
YouTube stole Walt.
He'll be
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
Asians got
Barely.
him.
Yeah, right. Barely 10. We're about 11 minutes in, and we're already having technical difficulties. So,
Hmm.
anyways, let's move on. So, okay, so I just wanted to talk about the people in the background, actually the real heroes and the real people that bust their butt to make this happen. And I want to get to of course the real stars and the people in the background. And of course we know that the director was Ishiro Honda, and we can't forget Eiji Tsuburaya, special effects specialist. And then we had Tomoyuki Tanaka, who was a producer. And I'll start going down to, don't forget, we can't forget Akira Fukube, who did the music and the soundtrack. And as far as the stars go, we're just gonna go with the main stars, and we already know Yosuke Natsuki as Detective Shindo, and then we know Yuriko Hoshi as Naoko Shindo, and then Hiroshi Koyosumi as Professor Murai, and then Akiko Wakabayashi as Princess Dorina Salno, and the Peanuts as a Shobajin. So just wanted to throw them out there because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have had Godzilla, period. Especially Ishiro Honda and Eiji Tsuburaya. So we would never would have had them. So now I got to bring in as far before. Let me just bring in the Walter and Kevin again. Hold on. So before we get started, all right.
I'm back. I don't know what happened there, so I'm back.
You fell
we
into
got-
that vortex that
There we
opens
go.
up when a plane explodes.
Now we got Kevin from KL's Entertainment Reviews, and thank you, Kevin, for sorry about the time difference, man, but I'm glad you can make it.
No, it's great. Like I say, I was having difficulties with my laptop just as I was about to jump. I set my laptop up, and just as I was about to sort stuff out, it decided to have a quick update. So
No, it's all good,
Now
man.
all
Yeah,
those updates.
Right, yeah,
I was ready. Like I just say, it was just the laptop decided to be a twat.
it's all good, man. It's all good. But what I was gonna say, the whole thing is like we're already barely 13 minutes in, man. We're already having technical difficulties, so don't feel bad, And I haven't done a stream in a while, so I'm a little rusty when it comes to, bringing everybody in and getting my mind ready and getting my mindset and everything. But as far as that goes, we're gonna start off with the film, and I'll let Walter start it off as we go. We're gonna go by parts. We're gonna go by. It's gonna be first, and then we're gonna go by second and the third act. So just take it away, Walter. Start off with the first beginning, man.
Well, well, pretty much we get a how was the word? We get a foreboding or a kind of a what we're going to see at the end, at the beginning of this movie. But to get it going, we'll start with the human action, and we see that Naoko, she's on the top of this roof with these observers, and they pretty much are, looking for these spacemen because they feel like there's someone who can probably help them in determining what kind of situation might before them, something foreboding in their, on Earth and everything, which is kind of ironic because we come to find out later on that actually does happen, only in a different kind of way. But she's up there trying to get a story for the mystery of the 20th century, and they said one of the people says, that they didn't come, they were late or we're just older. And the older man says, we failed again tonight. And he says, the spacemen are probably aware of the unbeliever, which you kind of turn out to find out she is kind of unbeliever. She's just trying to get a story. She's not trying to get, it's pretty much tabloid TV. If you think about it, it's tabloid news is what she's doing, which is kind of ironic. You never heard of tabloid back then, but it's so fluid now. It's abundant. It's kind of like foreshadowing of what was things to come. You know, but once you find out that you know, the person says, you know, we're trying to learn something, hopefully that we can kind of draw back from what's going to happen. You know, maybe we can kind of divert the action that's going to happen. Then all of a sudden, we see this meteor shower coming down. We don't have no idea what it is. We just figured, okay, it's just a meteor shower. But we know that something involved with this meteor shower is cataclysmic. It's something that's bringing a terror probably far worse than Rodan, far worse than Godzilla, and the Earth is in a mess hall of, you know, future events with this thing. And so when it comes down and it finally crashes, it's like, okay, I think we're about to get ran over here. The Earth people are about to get something that's very, very bad, worse than what they think they are, you know.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree, man. And remember, we're gonna. There's two different versions. You know, there's the English dub and there's a Japanese dub. We're gonna go by the Japanese, so you know, we'll go by the Japanese story and everything. So
I can get that.
Yeah, and then now we'll move it on to Gojira 851.
Wait, hold on a sec.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry about this. You mind circling back to me?
Oh, we can go. You can take it from there where Walter left off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you mind coming back to me?
No, he said, "Can we come back to you?"
Skip them and then come back later.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll throw it over to Anthony. Anthony, go from there.
Okay, well, first, I just want to bring, because Walter mentioned something, and I never made this connection before about the tabloid journalism. The character in GMK was kind of a callback to Naoko.
Mm.
But look, I do love the beginning in the setup and how they have that discussion and you see the meteor hit. And I even love that when they're going to look for it, I love that you get this like very sinister music that would not be out of place in a horror movie. And I do love how they kind of invert the trope that comes from movies like The Blob, where meteor crash lands, something comes out of it and it gets bigger. And the meteor crash lands and gets bigger and bigger until the full-size creature emerges. This film is a great study in how to pace yourself, introduce the characters, and without having any action on the screen till a certain point, just the mystery keeps hooking you in, and at that point, the monster fights are just the icing on the cake.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, and then I mean it does have that kind of, like you just mentioned, that it does have a bit of a horror factor, but it's basically, you know, pretty much science fiction and at its best, especially for the 60s. And there were so many different kinds of that's what I liked about it. It brought every little type of just atmosphere to the film, and I really had to wrap my head around it when I first saw it. When you're seeing it when you're young, you're like, oh yeah, you just want to skip all that part and just go straight to the fighting, right? That's what we all wanted when we were kids. But you know, now unfortunately, now that you know, as we got older, you know, we got more into the story, and the story's not even that bad. Just a little out there because of, you know, the of course of the Solno being from Venus. But you know, anyway, continuing for where Anthony left off, Omni, take it from there.
Well, I mean, after that point, we also get the main thrust of what the human plot's going to be about, in that there's apparently political intrigue in the country she's from isn't actually real, right? I'm pretty sure it's not. Because, you know, it's like everyone there is Japanese, but they wear these big Elizabethan collars, and the architecture looks like Burmese or Thai or something, but it's only an hour away from Japan. And yeah, I'd love to know where it's actually supposed to be. But you have basically a plot to assassinate the princess who's going to be the next ruler, because apparently her ascension is going to decide what direction that whole nation takes. Presumably they're talking about the Cold War, I'm guessing. And there's a bomb on her plane that she doesn't know about, and when it seems like she's probably going to get blown up, we get our first indication of something very strange going on, because it's not just meteors that are happening. She gets this message that almost seems more like it's a sign from God almost, that tells her to get off the plane that instant. And she just walks right on out. And ironically, leaping out of the plane without a parachute makes her the only survivor. But we don't necessarily find that out right away.
Right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was one of the more crazier scenes in the film. Yeah. What's up?
Yeah, it's one of the hand waving moments.
Yeah, you're like, I mean, also what Omni had just brought up about, it's pretty much a fictional kingdom or whatever, and
right.
If it was, I'm pretty sure it is a fictional kingdom. I mean, I don't think people from the Himalayas would, actually be wearing stuff like that. They'd probably be freezing, or stuff, I mean, it adds to the plot, but we know it's kind of wacky, man. It's the 60s, it's sci-fi, it's a Godzilla movie, but no, that was some great info there, Omni, and yeah, man. I mean, I'll just take it from here, and as far as that goes, now we get to more about the plot, which involves Shindo, the officer, undercover cop, and then, of course, going back to what Walter was saying about Naoko, the reporter. They have their dynamic brother and sister, just typical bantering, stuff like that, and then we move on to where they want to start studying. They want to start studying the meteorites. So that's where Dr. Murai comes in, and they have an expedition to go study the meteorite, finding out that it has magnetic properties. It's growing in size. It's just a big mystery, and they're actually camping there, and they're just doing analysis, and they're checking and everything. And that was, to me, one of the better parts of the plot, because it did have that UFO type of science fiction style that I really enjoy. And now I'll pass it on to my brother Kaiju goodness, Kevin. So take it away from there, man.
So obviously, the princess has jumped out the plane, and then there's the investigation around the mountainside over the meteor, and then obviously, just as when you think the princess is no longer with us, but she's now in human clothing instead of the royal, outfits and things, royal gear, and she suddenly emerges at the mountainside with the reporters and everybody there, and she tells everybody that there's danger coming, basically. She then warns them of that Rodan is hibernating within the mountainside. And then there's a part of the movie where a gentleman's hat falls off and it falls down the ravine, and some man goes to get the hat, and people are just looking at her like she's a crazy person, like she's off her, she doesn't know what she's talking about, she's clearly insane. And next thing you know, the mountain begins to shake. Somebody goes down to collect the gentleman's hat, and Rodan emerges from the mountain. So straight away, people are now starting to realize something strange is about to happen, or is happening.
Yeah, they start they start actually believing. They start actually not believing her, but they start thinking like, wow, she's some kind of prophet. Now she's some kind of, she's a prophet, or she can see into the future and stuff like that. So people start second guessing that, oh man, she knew that Rodan was in Mount Esso. So now he came out, he emerged, just like Kevin said, and now they're really thinking. Now they're like, oh man, you know what? What if she is telling the truth? Or they're still skeptical, but they're still like, okay, well, this is crazy, So now I'll pass it on to Gojira 851.
So after she makes her presence known, it makes the papers. So earlier in the film, when she's on the plane and it's going to explode, and it's kind of like a coup that they're trying to pull, different members of her government are trying to pull to get her out of royal power. So they see that she made the front page and she's still alive. So they're like, oh, our plan is off. Then we can't take control. She's still alive. So they actually dispatch the same bad guy from beginning of the film, and a crew of people to go to Japan and actually hunt her down, which is actually one of the very first movie villains I remember as a kid. Because I remember watching, like the Joker and the Batman film with Michael Keaton and others. But every time I think of a villain in a film, I always think of this guy and his crew as they're driving around. And so then they find out that she gave a bracelet to a fisherman, because the fisherman found her in the ocean. So they eventually, they catch up with her and they try, figure out what exactly is going on with her. And then we meet on with the Peanuts, and we get to learn kind of also another thing. When Rodan is in the mountain, is that the same mountain that was in the original film Rodan?
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so it ties together with that original film as well. So it's like a big universe that they built for all of these monsters. But anyway, so then we see the Peanuts. They're up on stage and they're displaying themselves, like on a TV show, and which also brings in the idea that Mothra versus Godzilla also happened as well. As they were talking about the two babies that swam back to the island. Unfortunately, one of them passed away because of off-screen itis. But yeah. So all right. So who's next?
Okay. Yeah. So no. Yeah. I mean that was another good other good info that you added. And yeah, I mean the Shobijin, they introduced the Shobijin, and it's a connection between Godzilla and Mothra, just like Gojira 851 said, and then of course Rodan from 1956. And yeah, they're it's an expanded Toho universe, and that they're bringing it all together, like way before Marvel did all that shit. Toho did it, so that's what's really the intriguing part of this film for me. And like you said, man, they were going.
Marvel just built on the foundation that was laid by Universal and Toho.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, Wolfman and Frankenstein. Yeah, I remember that. And then so now we go to, we're already done to the point where we know that the Shobijin are there. So now I think we get to the part where the Venusian girl, which she's from Venus, the Japanese version, and I think along with the reporter, Naoko finally goes to where the prophet was and talks to her, say, you know what, okay, now I'll take her in, I'll watch her, I'll do this. And then that's when I think she has another premonition about Godzilla showing up, and that's where they go to the ship. That's where they go to she goes to the ship and supposedly tells the shipmates, or Captain, hey man, don't ship out. This ship's gonna get destroyed if you do. Godzilla's gonna come and he's gonna destroy this ship. And what do? They don't believe her. They don't believe her again. You would think they would have taken into consideration what happened at Mount Issa when Rodan was came out when he erupted from the volcano, but they didn't. So that's where the ship goes out, and then we're looking into the ship. The ship's there, and then we start seeing this pod of whales. I don't know if it's whales or dolphins. I don't know if it's whales or dolphins. There's one of the two, but whales. Yeah, they're whales. And then right behind them, that's where Godzilla makes, his first appearance in the film. And then what does he do? He ends up using his atomic breath and blows up the ship. He blows up the ship. Just like she mentioned, I remember, and just to add to this before I pass it on, this movie was pretty long. Was pretty long. So I forgot to mention that, but now I'll pass it back to Walter, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Trying to think. Okay. He blows up the ship and all that stuff. Yes, and this is where the what's his name? Now knows. I think it's Now knows. This is when he comes in. Is it come in then or later? I think it's later. But he comes in from the airport and his people are there and they're asking about, because I think we got, and that's the thing too. I think we kind of skipped a little bit where Rodan's already about, and here's Godzilla and everything.
We're jumping around a little.
A little, yeah, exactly. A little, but no, his presence is known. He's asking his men, like, okay, where's the princess, or they say the visionary. They say, well, since Rodan showed up, she hasn't been around too much, So their whole idea is, try to find her because they got to snuff her out. Because if she does, because they have no idea that she's lost her memory. They just think like, okay, she's, just this crazy person that just looks like the person they try to assassinate. But as the story goes on, then we switch back to, because this is the Japanese version, we switch back to where the mountain where Morai is at. And, he's talking to his people, and everything. And they're saying, this is the strange part of this movie here. This is a meteor. We don't know how meteors work. I mean, as far as, it's like it can have this kind of property or it can have this kind of property. But earlier we saw that it has some kind of magnetism about it. But now it's pretty much dead, Also, the fact that it has some magnetism, you feel like, okay, maybe it's just dead in a sense, it's not nothing very ominous about it. But here's the thing that one of the guys brings up. He asks him, it's like, Doctor, does it look like it's getting bigger? It's like, what? How can a meteor grow? That's, and you think to yourself, it's like, there's no possibility that kind of physics plays into it. But then you have to remind yourself, hey, this is the example of how this movie plays on physics and terminology in terms of like, take all that away and realize that all that you realize is that anything is possible in this universe. So if a meteor can grow, it's going to grow. And like I say, they still try to study it and everything. And getting back to this is the thing was getting back to. Yeah, kind of jumped around. Yeah, this is when the Peanuts, I can't say the actual name, the Peanuts, they go on the ship to go back to Infant Island. And, that's when I can't say the name. I'll just say the princess comes on and says, you must not go. But she never really says why they shouldn't go. She never says, she just said, you're in danger. You shouldn't go. And the captain is told, like, she's on board. He said, get this crazy woman off my ship. She don't know nothing. Just get her off the ship. But it's just as Ghidorah 851 said, they don't take heed to that. They don't care about that. They're just trying to do their job, what they're trying to do. So going from there, they're just like, okay, what's going to happen next? Because the Peanuts, they hear this, and being who they are, they feel like this person might have some, kind of, info, or at least have some sense that she knows what she's talking about. And this switches to going to the police station where, Shindo finds the bracelet. He finally finds that bracelet, and he tells his captain, he's like, we got the guy who found this bracelet, who's pawning it off. And from there, we just know that it's like, well, he wasn't trying to steal it. He was just trying to say, hey, I didn't find it. I was traded this, But I don't want to get off. I don't want to go too much because I can talk all day with this, So I'll just stop from there, and we're just in the police station part. So we'll go from there because I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay, I'll take it now. I'll hand it out to Anthony. Anthony, go off or start off where, or leave off where Jedi Granville was, man.
I feel like the police station and like a lot of that stuff went over my head as a kid, and now that I'm older, I really love the part when he's like, "Whoa, we're gonna have to hold you," but I didn't do nothing wrong, and he's like, "We're gonna have to hold you for questioning," and like that like hits differently as an adult when you understand some of the differences between the Japanese and American legal system, that it's a humorous thing. But one thing, like, this is one of the films where every time I watch it, like, something different can jump out at me. And I was watching it today, and how we see Rodan come from the mountain, then Godzilla make his way back to Japan. As this meteor's growing, I wondered, did both of them, like, sense a potential rival and incorrectly assume the rival was the other?
Yeah.
And, like,
I mean, that. Go ahead.
even the meteor, like, now I look at it more as a cocoon. Ghidorah will cocoon himself in a meteor after destroying the planet, and when he emerges, that he comes out in this form of like pure fire, like it's just energy in there, and he has to retake physical form. Like, there really wasn't anything quite like 60s science fiction. And sadly, we're not going to see anything quite like 60s science fiction again. It was a different time, and, you know, I missed when stuff like this was made, when they would be more risky and experimental with this kind of storytelling. And it doesn't have to make sense, but let's just do it if we can get the audience hooked, like Spielberg said with the ending of Dog. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. If I get them hooked, they'll believe anything I sell them.
Yeah, I agree. No, yeah, I agree. And then it does make sense, because it is for the 60s. It was great special effects, man. I don't care what anybody says. It was great special effects, especially the way they made Ghidorah look and everything. But now I'll pass it over to Kevin, and Kevin will go from the police station where they're leaving, and we'll leave off from there.
I think once they leave the station, I think that's when Godzilla and Rodan make the way to land, and they begin fighting within the countryside, and obviously that distracts everybody from the meteorite that's growing, the situation with the princess, and going back to what you mentioned with King Ghidorah, in a cocoon. If you remember right, in Godzilla vs. Gigan, a similar thing happened when they tried to introduce him, where you had the two diamonds, had the red one and you had the silver one, and they explode in space, and out emerges Gigan and Ghidorah. So really, it's a great way of basically how Ghidorah, travels through space. He must have the ability to cocoon himself to probably save energy and to save his, strength for when he lands on a new planet. And obviously, soon after the emergence of Godzilla and Rodan fighting, it's then revealed that the meteorite is carrying Ghidorah. Yeah. And you suddenly see, Ghidorah, emerge. And I believe, I believe that's the point where the princess mentions King Ghidorah, how she is an alien from Mars, and how her world was destroyed by King Ghidorah. And, Ghidorah, I think, was from Venus, if I'm rightly thinking. And
Japanese version, she was Venus. Yeah, in the Japanese version, she was from Venus, but from the American dub, she was from Mars.
Yeah.
And we don't know where Ghidorah came from. He's just this Lovecraftian being from beyond known space.
Yeah. And obviously she reveals to the world that Ghidorah's to basically do the same of what you did to Venus, and that's just basically destroy the world and to end mankind.
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you for that. Thank you for that information. And yeah, man, I mean, it was like I said, the human story in this, man, is so expanded that it's like kind of like rough to try to like patch it together when you see such a long movie. And I just remember before I get to Omni, I just wanted to mention that before in the human plot, the Shobijin show themselves again, and that's when Malmus was looking for the princess. They keep going off of just leads, taking pictures, looking at the newspaper. They want to make sure it's her because they don't want to just, hey, well, you know what? We don't even know how can she survive a plane crash, or how can she actually survive, just what happened. So they're doing digging, they're looking around, and then they actually go to a hotel where Naoko was there, and that's where Naoko took the princess / the prophet, and that's where Malmus actually follows, and they get some leads on her, and then we all know what happens from there. From the hotel part, I'll pass it to Omni, and then from there, Omni would take from there, and then we'll move on.
So, as things are happening, we suddenly then have. Wait a minute. Where were we again? I'll take over. So, basically, at that point, Godzilla and Rodan. Godzilla caught sight of Rodan. He's been kind of following him. Yeah. And Ghidorah has just emerged. And I think it's around this time Godzilla and Rodan actually actively start fighting. Although for some reason, this is one of those times where they mess up Rodan's sound effects for some reason. Like there are two moments he makes Godzilla's roar and one where he makes Varan's roar.
Thank you.
But they stopped doing that after a while. And quite interestingly, Rodan has the upper hand on Godzilla for most of that fight. Like Godzilla always has a problem with flying opponents, but Rodan's really giving it to him. Even drops him groin first onto an electrical tower, which had to hurt. And although that winds up being fortuitous, because when the assassins get to the facility where the princess is being held, they're about to do shock treatment to try and see if they can really snap her out of the whole Venusian thing. And taking out the power is the only thing that saves her, because the assassins snuck in and turned up the voltage all the way. So it's sort of one of those weird bits of, boy, it's actually fortunate that happened. Everything's connected, even if it's not directly, even if it wasn't an intentional thing. And also at that point, Mariah and Naoko have brought the Shobijin back to the main city, because Ghidorah is starting to begin his rampage. Although how they got the name Ghidorah from that one facility out into the rest of the world, they never really say. It's just the princess says, it is King Ghidorah who destroyed Venus, and she's telling it to people who still think she's crazy. And then the next thing you see, there's a car going, King Ghidorah is coming, everybody run.
Right.
One of those weird moments.
Yeah.
But Ghidorah establishes himself pretty quickly as a major threat, because, first it's weird enough that he formed out of fire, and it's even stranger that he's got 3 heads, but then he starts spitting the gravity beams. So, that's where King of the Monsters 2019 got the living storm thing from. He was like a living storm.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So now moving, and that's when the Shobijin say, well, Mothra can't actually win on her own yet because she's still young, but here's a crazy idea. Maybe she can convince Godzilla and Rodan to work with her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's that's where the real excitement, and that's when everything starts getting interesting. When we can finally get away from the human plot, we can just get to the fighting. We can get to the battle, and that's where, like you said, they get the Shobijin to call Mothra. They say, you know what? We don't have any alternatives. Rodan and Godzilla are too busy fighting each other. They don't even care about the threat. So it's like they don't even care that Ghidorah is going to go in there and destroy it. So it's like, okay, he's going to destroy the world. So okay, whatever. They have their own little agenda going on, and then Ghidorah is already doing the rampage, and then they get the Shobijin to call Mothra. So Mothra comes, unreluctantly, she does come, and then that's when we have the big chat between the kaijus in this movie, and then Mothra has to literally, if she had hands, she would literally smack both these dudes across the head just so they can understand the gravity of the situation.
But you know what? Just to add that though, Sci-Fi, in a way, she kind of does, because when they're playing volleyball with the rocks, she's looking back and forth. He's like, "Will y'all stop this, crap?" And then she just has to put her foot down and sprays Godzilla first, and then you see Rodan kind of laughing at this, laughing at Godzilla, and then when she sprays him, she's like, "Well, you shut your butt up too. You ain't, you just the same as bad as him. So it's like a woman's telling these two boys, it's like, stop acting like you're 5 years old, stop acting like, like your kids, it's like, stop this crap, so it's like mommy telling the kids, like, behave or you're gonna get smacked, which in a way she kind of did, because when she sprayed the silk on them, it's like, that's kind of what she was doing.
Which is ironic because she's younger than them.
Yeah.
Right, that's the whole part that makes sense. And like I said before, I pass it on, I'll this time I'll pass it back to Gojira. And yeah, the whole thing was that, I mean, Mothra came, and then Godzilla and Rodan are having a pretty long battle, man. It was a lengthy battle between Rodan, and then they're finally at, I don't know what mountain it was, but they were in the mountain, and they're giving their two licks. Omni Viewer did have a point that Rodan does have an advantage because he can fly and because he's more agile, and he does, they have their, like I said, they both get their licks in. They both get their licks in, and it's an entertaining fight, man. This is the part where it starts getting very, very interesting, and the fun part for me, because God knows that when I got older, I did enjoy some of the human plot, but I really just want to see the monsters fight. That's what I love about it. So now, before, when Mothra is barely getting in and they're fighting, now where they're still fighting. Rodan and Godzilla are still fighting. So now we enter Mothra, and we already know what Mothra does. So I'll leave it to Gojira 51.
All right, so one of my favorite scenes in the movie, Rodan's giving Godzilla the business. Godzilla just grabs Rodan and turns him upside down and slams him on the ground as hard as possible. I love that scene so much. He's like, "Oh, you want to peck at me now?" I'm like, okay. So the cool thing about this is that not only are we getting the monster action, Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra, blah, 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 they're also doing another assassination attempt on the princess, who's supposed to be getting the electroshock therapy, but the lights are off. No, so brothers. So brother.
Yeah, fanatic. What's up, film fanatic?
Film fanatic.
So
thanks for dropping, brother.
It's not only an assassination; it turns into a full-on gunfight. They have to worry about, trying to escape as well, and just the whole mountain. I always like fight sequences outside, like mountain areas and stuff. So they have to deal with, falling rocks and stuff while Godzilla and Rodan are fighting as well. The main assassin, his name escapes me for the moment. He has an actual rifle, and he's, taking pot shots at our heroes. And then Mothra comes, and then Mothra is able to, speak with Godzilla and Rodan. Not much is learn from that discussion, though. In fact, Mothra's like, "Oh, what horrible language!" Yes, good stuff.
Okay. What's up, Lethal?
So, so Godzilla, while he's standing there, they're looking. Mothra's like, "You know what? Screw you guys. I'm gonna go fight Ghidorah by myself." And they're like, "Wait, what?" And she actually starts slithering off or crawling, whatever. She starts going off to fight Ghidorah herself. And Godzilla and Rodan are like, staring at her and just slowly following her, watching her leave. It's like really? She's going to do it. So then she goes over, and then we get to see the actual scope of how big Ghidorah is in this film compared to Mothra, at least. And, he's breathing his gravity beams all over the place. Got gunfire from the assassin. Finally, there's a rock slide that kills the main assassin. And the fun part is that she actually bumps her head. The princess bumps her head, and she gets all her memory back. Like that. Good stuff. Anyway, so Ghidorah starts laying the smackdown on Mothra. And this brings Godzilla and Rodan over. They're like, oh, that is a real problem, isn't it? So then Godzilla opens up with, throwing some rocks. And then we get to 3-on-1 battle with Ghidorah. And Ghidorah's actually holding his own this whole time, throwing them around and keeping his distance. And one of the coolest parts of the fight that I didn't remember as a kid, I saw this fairly recently, is the dog fight that he was having with Rodan in midair, which was copied in Godzilla King of the Monsters. But this time, they actually slam into each other in midair and then fall to the ground, and Ghidorah lands on a rock. It's like, oh. What's up, Lethal One? How you doing?
Okay.
I think one of my favorite parts of the battle between Godzilla, in that whole end sequence, the final, is also the part where Mothra climbs onto the back of Rodan and just starts firing, the web spray at Ghidorah. I just thought that bit was so great. And for me, this is one of the best films featuring
Doomsday's Crypt.
What's up, Doomsday Crypt?
Hello.
It's actually interesting. Hello.
Thanks for joining me, man.
It's actually interesting that, are you still going?
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just going to say this is probably one of the strongest films featuring Rodan, because I think this is truly one of the best of the films within the Godzilla world, where Rodan truly gets to shine outside of his own movie. Because, was mentioned before, he fought Godzilla, and he kind of got the advantage. And it's the first time, I think, in all of the Godzilla movies where you're actually seeing how strong Rodan was, because he managed to pick Godzilla up and fly him and drop him. I don't think there's another movie that you see him do anything like that. He's more or less smaller and not as strong in the majority of the other movies. So for me, this is not just Ghidorah's movie. If you had another monster that truly shined, it would be Rodan.
Because he's also smart in this one. He strategizes.
Right.
But I gotta add this to what Kevin was saying, because I gotta say this real quick. But this is something that he brings up about Rodan's strength about Godzilla. To me, when they're battling, I make it as a comparison to the T800 and the T1000, because when you see Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator and Robert Patrick's, Robert Patrick seemed he seems scrawny and everything. He can take up no kind of energy, against Schwarzenegger's character. But when you see the strength of him, it's okay, he is a kind of a inventable kind of individual. He can talk to him a little bit. That's what I see when Godzilla and Rodan are battling, because you think Rodan can't handle Godzilla too much. When he throws him, picks him up, drops him, knocks him down, I'm just wow, Rodan's actually a pretty dominant kind of character here, because, and that's the thing I've always referred back to, because here's a film that's over 20 years older than T2, and I realize here's some characters, the T800 and T1000, kind of almost a modern day Rodan and Godzilla to a degree, because just because one is more slender than the other one doesn't mean that one isn't opposing. That doesn't mean that person can't handle their own, So it means strength is there no matter how skinny a person is, or what kaiju it is, So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Rodan could almost rival Anguirus for tenacity.
And what's also interesting about the fight is that they really actually do a good job showing that it needs to be all three of them at once, because Mothra, Godzilla, and Rodan, they all get a turn going one-on-one with Ghidorah, and like Mothra gets thrown around like a rag doll. Godzilla takes a bunch of licks but keeps coming back. Rodan manages to knock him out of the sky but eventually gets cornered. So you realize that they really can't all defeat him by themselves. That's like the whole idea behind a team-up movie, right? Why do the Avengers of the Justice League come together? Because they're facing a threat that not even Superman can face alone. And this is one of those times where clearly Ghidorah is so powerful. He's more powerful than the monsters we've already seen, because Godzilla's supposed to be the ultimate powerhouse. Mothra was able to beat him, but she can't even beat Ghidorah. And Rodan's trying. They're all trying, but it's only when they're all together. So it's a true team-up movie. And that's actually something that they did. Like, they weren't the first to do the crossovers. We mentioned that Universal did it with Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman. But those three never actually teamed up. They were always sort of at each other's throats. This was an actual monster team-up. So.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah. You have a point, and I mean, you just all you guys, points are so valid, and that's why, like, and that was like the perfect analogy, Omni, that each and even Kevin brought it up too. That each one of Rodan, Godzilla, and Mothra all had their one-on-one shot with Ghidorah, and they all struggled, even in their strengths. Like they struggled at their specialities. Mothra is more of a say she uses her silk. She's not so fast, but she's usually an ambush. She's an ambush type of kaiju at that point.
She's like the mage.
And then we got Rodan, who's probably the best advantages in the air. And he goes up, and Rodan literally does, just like Omni said, he's strategizing, and he's getting Ghidorah's attention, gets Ghidorah to fly up, and then Rodan just, okay, follow me, come on, go ahead and follow me. Then he does the turnaround, straight up, just boom, just like it. But then that was one thing, just like you said, GoJ51, that was one of the best scenes of the movie. You just see them go boom like that, and they both fall right on the bottom, and it's just like, Omni said, he wrote the thing about Rodan is that he doesn't have any projectile weapon. So he's stuck in a corner because he could try to fly, but he'll get shot down by the gravity beams. So that's where Mothra and Godzilla, okay, you know what? I mean, I'm pretty sure they didn't show it on screen, but they're okay. Mothra and Godzilla, okay, we gotta gang up on this dude. He's too powerful for each one of us at our strongest points. And then Godzilla, of course, is the brute force powerhouse who couldn't even, he got tossed around by Ghidorah more than once. So it's like they all had to strategize and then get Ghidorah all at once. And it's such a badass part, man. It's such a badass part when they're all going at them. You know what I'm saying?
Here's a comment. I pulled up my review of Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, for this comment, and Token Dave commented, Godzilla to Rodan, we ain't brothers, we ain't partners, we ain't friends, but if we allow this three-headed punk to kill the kid kaiju, we're gonna be sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like now that we're just talking about the battle, because it's so much easier to talk about the battle because the battle's not very long. But I mean, it's just like, okay, you know what? Let me pass it to back to Jedi Granville. Then we'll go from there.
Okay. What part? I mean, because
just analyzing parts of the whole battle that you thought stuck out. I mean, besides the ones we just mentioned, but like just your take on the battle.
Okay. It's I can point out so many, but no, I will say that the uniqueness is the fact that since Mothra is in the larva stage, you would think she wouldn't be as fast or anything, but there's that one shot where when Ghidorah is pretty much using his gravity beams at Rodan, you see Godzilla and Mothra coming from behind, and Mothra, like I said, Mothra, Godzilla's walking, but you see Mothra crawling on the ground, and she's going pretty good, pretty fast. You know, she's pretty much holding. That to me was kind of impressive because it's like how they did that, I don't know, but it's just like you see that. Yes, she's got speed with how she's able to catch up. You know, she can go. You know, that kind of impressed me the most. But also, like he said, how when they was intertwining with Ghidorah. You know, they're really mixing it up. That one scene where they all go at him at once. Martha grabs his tail, one of his tails. She gets flipped around, and you know, Rodan's trying to do something. Godzilla, they kind of get knocked over, you know, with that. But then, as you say, they strategize their efforts, and this is something I got to point out. Rodan, he uses. See, that's one thing some people may not realize. Rodan's a little bit smarter than most people give him credit for. He's the one, if you look real closely, you see Rodan when Martha's spraying her web on Ghidorah. Rodan looks at Martha. He said, climb up, pretty much saying, get on my back. You know, you can do better getting from the high ground. And Martha just turns around, climbs on his back.
The general.
Yes, exactly, and just rises up, and then while they doing that, it distracts his Ghidorah, where it gives Godzilla the chance to get from behind to kind of hold him down. You know, that way, in the way they really come together as a team to say, okay, you know, we may have be at each other's throats for a second, but that moment is when they really, as I could say, the Avengers turn around. You know, it's like they really come together right then and there. It's like, okay, we're a team. Let's take this sucker out, you know. And that's just the moment because Rodan has the idea to say, Martha, get on the high ground, and Godzilla, you the brute force, hold this sucker down. We gonna do something, you know. And to me, that's a moment where I say that's when they really, really come together. Not when they strike them in all at once. It's more when they really hone in their ability to say, let's do this part, you do your part, and I think we can pretty much take this guy out. You know,
if you look at the Showa era King Ghidorah, outside of all of the other eras in the Godzilla franchise, maybe apart from the 2019 Ghidorah, I think this Ghidorah is probably he's the first, he's probably the biggest, the most powerful. But if you look at the Showa era Godzilla franchise, there's not one single movie, I think, where Ghidorah's in the film on his own and has to be defeated one-on-one. It's always been a team up against him. So Ghidorah, the three-headed dragon, it's the three, Mothra, Godzilla, and Rodan. Godzilla versus Gigan, it's Anguillus in Godzilla versus Gigan in King Ghidorah. And then, of course, Destroy All Monsters, it's the entire, you know, entire monster catalogue, every one you can think of. And obviously, I think that was intended to potentially be the end of the Showa era by having them all against the biggest threat they've had, which is King Ghidorah. But obviously, they continued, they did a few more after that. But it just shows you how powerful Ghidorah was within the Showa era, and it also showed you his size. It was a great film to introduce him in, give him his own movie. Like, obviously, if you look at all of the movies, you had Godzilla 1954, you had Rodan had his own movie, you had, obviously, Mothra had her own movie, and this is obviously clearly was set out to be King Ghidorah's movie, obviously, because it's the title of the film. But they also did something different with this than they did to any other movie. They had the three already established characters and creatures, kaiju, versus him, because they clearly wanted to make it clear that this was going to be, going forward, the biggest, the strongest, and the baddest threat within the Showa universe. And I think he held his own throughout the entire franchise and not just this film.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree, man. And right now I'll pass it back to Omni, and I was gonna say, because we're already at the conclusion now where, Jedi Granville just mentioned, they had to work in unison to defeat King Ghidorah. Even all of their strengths separated, they couldn't do anything to Ghidorah, one-on-one. So they had to strategize. And I think Rodan, to me, he had most of the brains, and he thought most of everything through. Was like, okay, I gotta check this, gotta check that, I gotta survey this. Mothra, get on my back. We'll get Ghidorah. We'll shut him up. We'll just get him to, Godzilla distracted him from behind, and then they were able to finally get Ghidorah off. Kicked him off. Godzilla grabbed him from the tail. He was already covered in silk, couldn't see, he didn't know where he was, and then Godzilla just tosses him from the tail, throws him over, and then Godzilla just tossed him the freaking rocks. So get out of here, bro. Okay, we're done with you. That's it. You're done. You're done. That's it. You were tough, man. You were tough, bro. But we got you. We got you. You're nothing now. You're nothing. So he takes off. Rodan, and it's a great scene. One of the best scenes where Rodan, Mothra, and Godzilla are all like just telling him, yeah, good riddance. Get the hell out of here. And that's where it goes to where the princess is leaving. She's going back to her fictional kingdom, and she probably had a thing for Shindo and all that stuff. And then they're already finally just okay, they're setting off. She's saying her goodbye. She takes off in the plane, and then there's the end of the film. And just like Kevin was saying, it was a first in a lot of things for the Showa era, especially Ghidorah. They had the big four: Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, King Ghidorah. And Kevin just he said a lot of things, man. But now I'll pass it over to Omni, man, to just get your last takes on the film, the battle, and everything.
Well, interestingly, it was a first for a lot of things, but I also think it was a last for something in the Showa movies, sort of. During that final fight where you have everything going on, you have the assassin trying to get his final shot in, you've got the monsters fighting and everything. You also have all the people who live in that area fleeing to the hills, and there is this moment where as they're watching the fight finally turn, they're not saying, yes, the monsters are winning. They're going, the whole village is gone.
My home is gone.
So it sort of still reminded you, even though it was mostly aiming for spectacle, that there was a cost of some sort. And then just to add insult to injury, there's a landslide that buries it all. And I think that's worth noting too, because from moving on from that film, with a couple of exceptions like Godzilla versus Ghidorah, they wouldn't really focus as much on the effect that the damage was causing. It was more just the typical blockbuster, hey, look at how cool it is to see the city destroyed thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. But like I said, I think it was one of the last times they managed to work that in. And from there, I mean, you have everyone saying their goodbyes, including apparently Shindo completely missing the opportunity to become a prince and eventually a king. Because the prince clearly remembers him, and she thanks him. She says, "I owe you my life," and he's just like, "I wish you happiness." Not looking for someone, I could keep protecting you. But,
right?
Yeah, he's a little dumb, I guess. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And plus, it ends with, as Mothra leaves, you see Godzilla and Rodan watching, and the Shobijin are saying goodbye. Makes it pretty clear this is the turning point for those two. From here on out, they're not necessarily going to be superheroes, but they're not the bad guys anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they thought
because up to this point, Godzilla was always like the threat. From 1954 up to now, he was always the villain. He was, and obviously this was the film that made the turning point where he got his hero status. Mm-hmm. But even though Godzilla got his hero status, I always found with this particular film, even though he's in it, for me, he wasn't the main hero. It was always Mothra and Rodan had like a bigger part. It's a bit like how Godzilla vs. Kong 2021, even though it's called Godzilla vs. Kong, it was more of a Kong movie. It was a more direct sequel to Kong Skull Island. And obviously, I just felt like the emphasis was more on Kong. And I felt with this, clearly the emphasis has got to be on King Ghidorah because it's his movie. But when you think of all the side character monsters, it was Rodan that really shined. He was like the MVP of the film outside of Ghidorah. And obviously, if you had to look at the monsters, Mothra was like the heart of the movie. Mm-hmm. She was like the heart of the movie. She was the one that got them together. She was the one that was willing to sacrifice herself by going against Ghidorah on her own. And when the other two realised and seen the size of Ghidorah, like what was mentioned earlier, they were like, we can't let this happen because if she dies, she's like, that I think they had this sense that she was more than just a creature. She was like something a lot more meaningful, and they decided to team with her. But throughout the movie, Godzilla was a secondary character. It was the other three that shined.
I think you can kind of look at it this way: Mothra's the heart, Rodan's the mind, Godzilla's the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it does make sense. And the fact that I'll get to Anthony right now. I was going to say this. Remember when they had the conversation between Mothra, Rodan, and Godzilla? The conversation, even though they said it in the American version, it made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense on why Godzilla and Rodan didn't want to partake in saving the Earth and saving humanity. Why? Because all they want to do is kill him. They don't want to leave him alone. Rodan just wants to do his thing. They just want to live in peace. But then they say that humans are always trying to kill us. So why would I want to risk my life to save creatures that just want to do away with us or to do away with me? That's something I just wanted to throw out there, and that was a meaning of when I joined Omni Viewers. One monstrous moment. That's the part that really sunk in with the actual plot for me, in my opinion. That's what I thought. But now I can give it to Anthony. Now go ahead, Anthony.
Well, since you mentioned one monstrous moment, it's actually really fitting Omni Viewers here because it was through the one monstrous moment that you and I met. So I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for that. And to echo what he said about the village, I appreciate that because even my one monstrous moment, I talked about the prayer for peace in the original, and I do like callbacks where it's like, yeah, this action is fun and well, but okay, here's the personal loss, and you see it in a lot of movies, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's good to have fun, but we're all old enough here. We remember things like Hurricane Katrina or 9/11 in our TVs being plastered with the personal effects of these big disasters. And although I don't think it needs to be there for every case, every now and then it's nice to really see a film acknowledge that and show that, yeah, it's not all fun. It's not going to end well for everyone. And that was kind of, with the exception of a few, that was the last time we would really see this for a long time. This was the turning point for the franchise. I would still classify Godzilla and Rodan as more anti-heroes in this, and it wasn't till the end of the next film where they would become more full heroes and the franchise would start gearing itself to a younger audience, which isn't bad. This is just, it's such a fascinating film because we're right at that turning point. It's got one foot in the origins of what these movies used to be, and it's got the other foot in that direction. And it's just sad we see with a lot of newer fans, and it's like they'll watch the Heisei films, they'll watch the Millennium, but they don't acknowledge the Showa, and it's like, don't forget where it started. It's the same thing when I see people discuss, so what's your Mount Rushmore of horror characters? And I don't see one universal monster. It's like you can't truly appreciate the stuff you love until you appreciate its foundations. In this film, I wouldn't call it the cornerstone of the foundation, but it's definitely one of the top layers of the foundation, and arguably it might be the most important one that came out in the 60s.
Going back to what going back to what Sci-Fi said, and obviously Anthony said, when you said Sci-Fi, how with Rodan and that they have that conversation in the American dubbed version, and then they said, oh, well, all we do is get picked on by humans. If you think about it, even in the next movie, which Anthony mentioned, Invasion of the Astro Monsters, they're still not really friendly with humans. And the only reason, like in Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, they had the opportunity to fight Ghidorah is because they weren't doing it for the humans, they did it for Mothra. In my opinion, they were saving Mothra because she was one of them. She was a monster. She was one of them. So they didn't do it necessarily for the humankind. They did it for the monster kind. They did it to save one of their own. And even in the next movie, Invasion of the Astro Monsters, with the plot in that movie with the Exians, the aliens from Planet X, the humans, they're seen as a burden still in a way, so they get taken to Monster X. They get taken to Planet X, which is all just this big ploy. And even when they came back to Earth and they're no longer in alien control, for me, they didn't necessarily fight Ghidorah again because they were saving humans. They were pissed off because they had been under mind control, and they thought, right, we're not having this. And they went after Ghidorah, Rodan, and Godzilla because, for me, once again, they're not heroes. Like Anthony said, they're all anti-heroes. They're doing it for another purpose, but by them fighting Ghidorah again, they're all saving us, but they're also doing it for themselves.
They're I mean, they knew it was Ghidorah already. You have a good point. They already knew it's Ghidorah, so what do they got to do? They go into fight mode, and they go, okay, with it, Ghidorah's a threat, so they already know. Like, they didn't even bicker between each other. They went straight for Ghidorah. So that was a good analogy, Kevin. Like, it was good info, man. I agree. And then now, like I said, I want to give it to Jedi Granville, and then we'll go to Gojira Fight 1. But like you said, it just, like, the whole part of it, like we mentioned, like all the whole parts of Ghidorah, it's a great film. The first of its type because they put all the monsters together, but the Universal had done that with Wolfman Meets Frankenstein, but not like Omni Viewer said, they never had all four of the big four in one film. So that was a great take on it. That was a really good analogy. So now I'll give it to Jedi Granville on just his last thoughts, what he thought about the fights in the film, and then I'll move it to Gojira Fight 1.
Well, I can say this film, as great as it is, I'm not making them say no cons on it. No, it's the fact that it is a true, eye candy of what it is. It's a spectacle. But like Anthony and like Kevin were bringing out, sometimes you do have that moments where you might lose yourself in the action and not get the what the movie is all about, the message, get the analogy of what all this is about, what all this is turning around. Because like we mentioned, Godzilla and Rodan, they're pretty much are, villains at this point. But this big turnaround, this big bad comes in. He comes in and pretty much turns their life around. Even though they're still kind of heavy on the next picture, but here they see that here's a threat that's from outer space, and it's like when he attacks Mothra, they're like, "Hold up now, this is one of ours. This is Earth. This is an Earth creature. You can't be coming in here and playing in our backyard and trying to, knock stuff down, And I think it's that point where you have to remind yourself that this movie is about bringing that sense of unity from adversity, from all that we've, seen with, because when they're talking to one another, you realize Rodan and Godzilla have a point of saying, why should we waste our time trying to save mankind when, in a sense, not just that they try to attack them, but they pretty much kill themselves. Man is on man pretty much vicious to each other. It's like, and they see this, they know this, they just realize, like, why should we waste our time trying to, berate ourselves and try to help some puny ants, which we can pretty much stomp out in a second. But why should we try to help them? They're pretty much going to stomp themselves out, with everything. But it's the fact that we see that, even though we have this spectacle, we want to try to remember that, there is something, an underlying message about, whatever you've gone through, whatever you've been through, whatever negativity you've had with somebody or something, you have to let that go if you want to get rid of the actual threat, something that is more, menacing than what you are. Because really what Redland and Martha were doing was just, Rodan and Godzilla were doing, all they were just pretty much doing was play fighting, and they're just doing stuff that doesn't matter. Here's a threat that matters. Here's an event like a hurricane, a tornado, or an earthquake that matters. It's destroying the humans, lifespan here. It's destroying their homes. It's like, dude, y'all got to put that crap away. Y'all got to throw that away and realize here's somebody who's talking logical, and the thing is, Martha, the Moth before, had this incident where, she destroyed, things, but she was trying to get her, Shoujin. She was trying to get them because they were stolen from her. But she put that behind her. She put that shit behind, excuse my language. She put that behind her and realized, like, okay, there's a bigger threat. When they defeated Godzilla the first time, it's like they weren't trying to just defeat him. They're trying to save, this sense of, morality that, yes, we know that, humans have done wrong. They've done wrong. They can continue to do wrong. But that doesn't mean we have to fall to that level. And this message goes on with the fact that human beings are going to be humans and kaiju are going to be kaijus. But the thing is, you kaijus don't have to be to the sense of what human beings are, because human beings, they're far more, if you think about it, human beings, I'm not saying we are, but human beings in general can be far more deadly than any kaiju we've seen before. And this movie kind of brings that out, that kaijus, even though they're a malevolent, threat, they are just they can destroy anything. They can come to the point where it's like, why should we be as destructive as man? And knowing that even though man has been destructive to us, don't be to that level. But they're basically saying, don't be monkey see, monkey do, in a sense, and learn to live in some kind of harmony, or learn to live like we all from this planet. The planet Earth is our home. All life forms that are born here, we all share it together. We have to learn to just throw that away when some outer space bastard comes in and tries to stomp on our territory, and learn to live with it and say, can we come together? Yes, we can. You just got to do it. You just got to put that crap behind you and do it, And I feel like sometimes the spectacle might outweigh the message, but here, like so many other films back then, they had this underlying message of saying that there's something that's being told to you more than just what you're seeing on the screen. It's there, but you have to look with your blind eye to see it, And this movie, Ghidorah, is no exception. It's one of those films that really shows that, hey, even though these guys, Rodan and Godzilla, were kind of bad in a sense, that doesn't mean they'd have to live forever like that. And when in the end, they come together and realize, like, hey, maybe being maybe being good can't be all bad, you know. And they learn to live with that, you know, and to realize that humans are going to be humans, but hey, we're not going to let somebody who comes in, you know, try to stomp us out because, you know, they're from another planet. You think you're going to stomp on us? Nah, we're going to stomp on you because we live here, you know.
Use the analogy to add on to what you said about with how Godzilla, I think he's best when he's depicted as a force of nature. But I look at ones like this with the fight as, can the rains from a hurricane extinguish a forest fire? In theory, yes, but what damage is the hurricane going to do in the meantime? And that's still there in this one.
Yeah. I mean, that's great analogies, man. Honestly, great analogies. Always good at Graham Bell and everyone here. You know, now we'll get to Coach Ray 5-1. Final thoughts, man.
So, in life, things are bigger than yourself. All right, you know yourself as one way. However, outside of you, there's more going on. So, to only think about it just from your perspective is very short-sighted. So, Rodan having its existence, Godzilla having his existence, Mothra having her existence. Yes, they've all fought each other in the past. They've all had their own previous glory. They're like the big three of Toho. But then Ghidorah comes along, and it wants to shake up everything. It wants to, stop that balance that they all had, and it wants to pretty much dominate everything. So they have to put everything aside and come together. That's a great analogy for things in life as well. Humans coming together rather than worrying about my feelings, Sci-Fi's feelings, Omni's feelings, Jedi's, Kyle, Anthony. We all come together and we all do a thing together and we all give our opinions together and put it forward together rather than going in different directions and thinking about ourselves. So that's a strong thing that happens in this film. Godzilla, he's king of the monsters. He wants to go rule over everything. Something bigger, something worse is coming, has arrived. He's thinking of himself. It's not until he steps out of his own mind and sees the way how things are going, that's when everything starts to balance itself out and become, we all come together then pretty much. So, that's just me, though.
Yeah,
I got a quote here that fits in with what Matt said, and this is from the anime Gundam 00. I'm different, nothing to do with me. It's all happening in a different world. Ignoring reality like that is just a kind of inverted malice.
Yeah. I mean, no, all your guys' points are always, they're always welcome, and I always appreciate them and I respect them. And just like what Jerry said, man, Godzilla had a purpose, Rodan had a purpose, Mothra had a purpose. Even Ghidorah had a purpose, and that was to be the antagonist. That was to be the destroyer, take over, destroy the earth. And now that I give my last thoughts before anything else, I wanted to jump on what Omni and what Kevin said about Mothra, even Walter. I think about it, Mothra going to battle Ghidorah alone just showed Godzilla and Rodan that, wow, this little creature has more courage to face the biggest threat than just Rodan and Godzilla fighting each other. And they're like, that little larva showed more courage than anything. And also they also backed her up and saved her because she's part of them. She's a kaiju. She's a monster. So it's just that I thought that Godzilla and Rodan couldn't hold it down if something were to happen to her. If something were to happen to this little thing that we didn't listen to, it's gonna be on their mind forever. They're like, no, we can't let that happen. We can't let this little thing just freaking perish, to this. So they also thought, and also because it's pride, it's pride. Godzilla's like, I'm not gonna let this little thing freaking take my glory. I'm like, hell no, I'm gonna freaking go and I'm gonna do my thing also, And Rodan and Godzilla, they all had their agenda, but it's like I said, we go back to that political part. and that's where Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra had that where they had to come to. They couldn't even come to a consensus, but it took Mothra getting hurt and getting injured for Rodan and Godzilla to act. So that was probably one of my like I said, my best part of the movie. And yeah, man, I mean, it was a great movie, man. My first movie I ever saw. Enjoyed it very much. We've already talked about it plenty of times on VC chats. We've done it so many times. Kevin, Anthony, Walter. We talked about this. We talked about this movie so much, and I've been wanting to do this movie for so long, and that's why I wanted to bring Omni Viewer into it and get his professional opinion on it. And also, Omni, I wanted to thank you so much for joining this podcast, man. And you can now claim that you are a part of the Sci-Fi Society, and I mean, I really do enjoy your channel, man. Your channel's, like I said, very intuitive, very informative. I mean, I watch it all the time, man, and I'm like thinking to myself, man, I just can't wait for what he's gonna come up with. And I saw that you actually did buy the Bandai Gamera, so I take it. Are you still gonna get the SH Monsters, or you don't know?
We'll see. Yeah, but I try to stay on a budget mostly. But maybe the Bandai's enough.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's enough for me. Go ahead.
So yeah, this one's been a privilege. I'm not totally a kaiju channel, but he's a huge backbone of my channel, and now I can say I've been a part of a stream with one of the best and the biggest Godzilla YouTubers out there.
Well,
yeah, exactly, man. You're definitely an inspiration, man. You inspired Anthony. You inspired me. Me and Anthony met because of you, actually, because of the One Monstrous Moment project that you did. And I always talk to Anthony now on a daily basis, and also with Kevin. I know you didn't get a chance to be introduced to Kevin, but this is Kevin Lambert. He's also he's gonna start actually doing his own movie review soon now that he's gonna have time because he's been working so much. And you didn't get a chance to meet him, but this is I don't know if you know who the Omni Viewer is, but that's Omni.
Oh
Kevin.
yeah, I know Omni Viewer. I've watched his channel. Yeah.
He's
probably one of the only kaiju channels I do watch, because a lot of the other ones they're just full of crap. I'll be totally honest.
Okay.
They're full of crap. But
you've always one clickbait one week.
Yeah, one of them they'll always say, "Oh, look at this Godzilla news," and it's stuff that they've already said in another video. It's clickbait. Where Omnivat always talks and always has interesting things to say, always talks in fact, where a lot of them talk in riddles and, like I said, just crap. Total crap.
And no 15-minute explanation over what Godzilla's footprint in this image could mean.
Mm-hmm. or what they'll do is they'll say, right, in this video, we're going to talk about this. And then it's 15 minutes in the video and they're still saying, this is what we're going to talk about in this video. Well, fucking say what you're going to talk about then. And then it gets to the point and it's like 20 minutes in and then it's one little thing like, have you seen the new trailer for the new Godzilla Kong movie? Well, so that's all you wanted to mention. So I've wasted 20 minutes of my life watching a video of you explaining that you're going to watch the trailer. So you've just wasted my life. Now piss off.
Yeah.
But also with Gojira 51 and then Walter's not usually that active on his channel, but when he gets a chance he does. And then I don't know if you know Gojira. I'm pretty sure you do know Gojira. I mean, he's really big into doing the X Plus, like the top notch figures that he does reviews on, and he's also an inspiration. I've known him since I think 2019, and we've been friends. Matt?
Probably like late 2018, I'd say.
Yeah. It's been that long. It's been that, but he does really Gojira F1 does really good in reviews on X Plus and a lot of the figures that he gets, man. So, but all of us here know about your channel. We do respect your channel. You're an inspiration as far as me being a content creator, especially Anthony. Kevin, hopefully we'll get a chance when he gets everything situated with his job. We already know that Gojira's got some stuff coming up. You don't have to say anything, Gojira, but I know you got something really big coming in, and yeah. We'll just keep it zipped. No, say nobody to say nothing. And then Anthony, he's got you got your Jurassic Park movie review. Is it the anniversary? It's an anniversary, right?
It's a review for the 30th anniversary, and my plan is to go through all 6 movies over the course of the summer.
Wow, is it 6 movies?
Cool. Yeah, Jurassic Park, Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, then Dominion.
Okay. All right.
Yes. So and then remember, guys, this is also the road to G Fest, and it'll be my first G Fest. I'll be seeing Walter there. I heard that. I don't know if Gojira's going. I don't know if you're gonna be able to make it this time, Gojira. But
I can't.
Oh, sorry, man. Your face was like, I can't.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, but I mean, I made this as a road to G Fest. I know Omni's already been there a few times, but it's my first time actually going, so I'm really excited about it. That's why I put it on the thumbnail that it's the road to G Fest. And I wanted to do this, my favorite Godzilla movie, before G Fest, because I wanted to just get this at least one Godzilla stream out of the way before I head to Chicago and finally experience what is G Fest. And man, but besides that, I wanted to really thank you guys for joining me on this very special podcast. And you guys know my boys, Gojira, Kevin, Walter, Anthony. You guys are my boys. Thank you, Ryan, Omni Viewer. It was a pleasure having you, man. We'll do more in the future as soon as I get my bearings. As soon as I get my bearings back into live streaming, or we can do more one-on-one collaborations. I know you do have Yo, just mention what you still got coming up, Omni, before we go, because I know you got something else coming up. It's another project, right?
Well, I've got a bunch of other things coming up. I am going to organize another One Monstrous Moment later in the year. Hopefully, I'm giving people plenty of time at this point, because it's supposed to line up with Gamma Rebirth. If you haven't, I still haven't quite decided on a title yet. So there's a poll on my community tab on my channel where you can vote for it if you haven't already. I've got a couple. I got a bunch of videos about different kaiju things, like the recent Titanic Creations graphic novel. Gonna do something about a movie that kind of ties into this whole recent trend with AI generated art, but I'll leave the exact specifics vague for now. And aside from the channel, I've got a couple books that will hopefully be published soon. At least one more is going to be published this year, and another possibly. I'm talking with artists to get cover art done. I'm going over the most recent edits. So I'm keeping busy. But thank you very much for having both of us on, really. It was fun, and all that stuff you guys said at the end, very humbling. So I will do my best to keep living up to the standards.
No, I appreciate it. Say, also having Snazzy on here, I had to have him, man. You can't just let him. You can't just take all the glory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But hey, I would like to thank everybody who joined the stream, who's watching the stream. I appreciate you guys, especially us, the Sci Fi Society, our newest member, Omni Viewer, who just He's great. You guys already know who he is. I'm not a big enough channel yet to know, but everybody else knows who the Omni Viewer is. So coming from me, coming from the Sci Fi Society guys, thank you very much for watching. We always keep it raw and real. We hope you all have a good night. So we're out.
Good night.
Peace out.